Hey there, so due to the nature of Twitch and the way my streaming music works, I have to post-commentate the audio for this draft. Now, I unfortunately had to do this because it was all muted. So we're going to go over this. All three rounds of the draft have their original audio. So at this point, I'm looking at this pack, and there are a few very powerful cards. So Control Magic's a fantastic card if you are in Unpowered Cube. It's certainly first pickable. There's also Mind's Desire, which is great if you want to force Storm. Land Tax is okay for a blue-white control deck. I assume the Necropotence would table. Sylvan Library is a fine green card. And the card I ended up choosing was the Grim Monolith. It's colorless ramp. It's fantastic. It allows you to cast 6-drop on turn 3, which is an effect that no other piece of Artifact Ramp can really offer you. And if the Mind's Desire tables, I very much consider going into Storm. But other than that, I'm just going to snap up this Grim Monolith and see what happens. And other important cards to note, I mean, there's nothing else that's like spectacular in this pack. Flooded Strand's fine. Zerrin Orb is a cool combo with Fast Bond if that shows up. At this point, I'm like, welp, someone passed me a Mox Ruby. So the Wizards has said that it's more likely for you to open a pack with multiple pieces of power than a pack with just one. Sometimes, they said that the algorithm was not truly random. And so, I mean, it's easy just to pick up the power here. There's nothing else that's anywhere near the power level, so you just snap the Mox. And here is where I make my first decision. So lots of people would argue Golgari Signet's very powerful. Trinket Mage is great because it fetches the Mox. But at this point, I was feeling a little bit frisky. So I was like, I can have some fun. And if I take Strip Mine, I can direct this draft into a fun way. And at worst, I'm losing a Signet, which we can pick up plenty of those later. So I said, I'm going to take the Strip Mine, see if I can pick up Crucible of Worlds or anything else like that. This pack is pretty empty for the most part. There's nothing spectacular. Wheel of Fortune is the most powerful card in the pack. It's great for Storm. Forge Master is great, and since it's this early in the draft, we already have multiple artifacts. I figure picking up the Forge Master now can help cement us in this. Nothing else seems great. I love casting Villainous Wealth in Cube, but I think the pick is just Forge Master and see if we can define ourselves into like an artifact themed deck. So we're looking for cards like Metal Worker or Mishra's Workshop or anything like that. And at this point, I think the person to my right, or the people to my right, are insane. Fast Bond is easily first pickable. It is absurd. And I'm just like, well, this is great. In addition, our original pack had Zerrin Orb in it, so maybe that tables. The other powerful cards, there's like an Ashiok, there's Deceiver Exarch, if you want to force twin, but Fast Bond's the best one, not even close. At this point, I'd say, well, I took Strip Mine already. I have Fast Bond. I'm going to just take Winter Orb here. Geist of St. Draft is great in blue-white and all, but Winter Orb, this feels like a Winter Orb deck. So we're looking for a smokestack as well, and we can just build the most attrition-y, grindy, you don't get lands deck available. This pack is pretty empty. We don't want Disenchant casted against us. And I just pick up a Nev's Disc here. Spoiler. Nothing else really stands out. I don't care for Grove of the Burn Willows, Murder's Cut, Jackal Pup, any of those. So I just pick up the Nevril's Disc. I could pick up Deranged Hermit, but there are so many better 5-drops you can pick up, and I'm just going to take the Artifact here. Again, cement us a little bit more into the artifact theme. Sometimes having a Wrath effect can be very powerful. Oftentimes in the artifact deck, you don't necessarily want to play Nev's Disc because it blows up your Winter Orb, your Fast Bond, etc. But you can certainly get rewarded for having it. Other than that, I'm just sitting here and I'm just talking about what are other possible cards. There's a little bit of delay here due to one player a couple seats down, apparently missing a pick or disconnecting for a little bit. Because if you look on the left, you see that my little image is the Lotus one. That I'm at 7, there's a 6 and a 5, and everyone else is at 8. So they got pushed back a little bit. So it's just sitting here, nothing else going on. Again, I really want to force this artifact attrition-y theme. Fast Bond has some cool little combos you can do, and since we have Strip Mine, if the Zurin Orb tables, if we can ever pick up a Crucible of Worlds, we can set up the magical Christmas land combo of Crucible of Worlds, Fast Bond, Zurin Orb, which if you're not familiar with it, Fast Bond lets you play extra lands at the cost of 1 life per land. Zurin Orb lets you sacrifice lands to let you gain 2 life. And Crucible lets you play lands from your graveyard into play. So with just basic lands, you can gain infinite life. You just sack a land, put it back into play. So you gained 2 life and paid 1 to put it back. Anyway, at this point, I see nothing except a Rashadan port, but it goes perfectly with our Strip Mine, with our Winter Orb, and this sort of you don't get to cast spells attrition or feeling of it. Craterhoof's a great card. You can always natural order into Progenitus, but for us, I think the pick is Rashadan port, and it's not particularly close. And we get lucky here, and the Zurin Orb tables. So I'm happy. Zurin Orb only particularly good with Fast Bond Crucible. Some people do play Zurin Orb, it does gain life. The land tax tabling and the Necropotence also table, like both of those cards, you really have to work to build around. I think Necropotence is absurd. It's just hard to make it fit into a deck, and a lot of people don't understand its power level necessarily. I've reached the point where if I open a Crucible of Worlds, the question is, do I take Crucible of Worlds or say like a piece of power or Soul Ring or something like that? And you probably don't. In this pack, I just snap a Scroll Rack. It can be fine to pick up pieces. It's another artifact. Parallax Wave is actually very, very good. I'm not surprised people don't take it nearly high enough. But we just pick up the artifact. Again, just trying to cut the whole archetype away from everybody and try and get us rewarded. We take this Corrosion Grip here. We are probably going to play green. But it also just wrecks us because Corrosion Grip can destroy our Zurin Orb, or it can destroy our Fast Bond, or our... Like, it just destroys anything in our deck if we're forcing the artifact deck. And if we are playing green, which hopefully we are, Corrosion Grip is quite good in Powered Cube. Here, Nemesis Wave, Villainous Wealth, tables, but I don't foresee myself going into that since we're playing Attrition. In the off chance I don't get to pick up the Smokestack, I just pick up a Braids. I might err on going green-black, but I don't care. Nothing here particularly stands out to me. I just take a Sphinx of the Steel Wind. I hate a Genesis Wave here, just to stop the green deck from getting absurd, and just take the Makeshift Mannequin final pick. So here we're pretty well cemented in some artifact-like theme. We're not sure exactly the direction we're going to go, if we're going to have Tinker Blightsteel Colossus or anything like that. And now we open a pack with a bunch of options. So there's Elishnorn, Karn, Primeval Titan, Sword of Fire and Ice, Dimir Signet are like the big ones. Vanilla Click is great if you're a blue deck. I don't think I'm looking like a blue deck. And here the debate for me is like, do I take Primeval Titan or do I take Karn? And Karn is just such a powerful effect. And since he can be cast off colorless mana, you can cast him pretty reliably. I talk about Primeval Titan, I'm like, well, I'm sad I don't get this Primeval Titan, but Karn is great. I love casting Karn and Ugin. It doesn't look like we're a sword deck, we're not playing many creatures, and a lot of people would argue that the Signet is the pick, but I think just having a great giant finisher, even though it's not an artifact, is something you definitely want to pick up. Karn is great. I personally like Karn more than Ugin, but they're both absurd in Cube. They allow you to come back from certain positions, and if you get to cast it early, which Powered Cube lets you ramp pretty fast. It also goes pretty well with our Grim Monolith that we picked up, since we can have a turn 4 Karn. And here we look at it, and there's True Name Nemesis, which is one of my favorite creatures in Cube because it's basically unkillable. But there's also a Worm Coil Engine. Great artifact finisher. Other cards to note, there's like Emrakul, there's the Green Soul Ring, aka Derogatory Speaker. Like, that card's so good. But we just take the Worm Coil Engine. It's a great artifact finisher. The life gain seems, it proves more relevant in most. It survives Wrath because it can, it just leaves behind some bodies. And here, we pick up the Crucible. I don't care what else is in the pack. There's a Lightning Greaves if you want to do the fancy Greaves combo with Kalotha Forge Master, but I don't care. I'm just celebrating. You see me celebrating up there in the corner with Crucible of Worlds. So I just slammed that pick, and now we have the combo. We have both Crucible Strip Mine and Crucible Zernorb Fast Bond, which now all we have to do is actually draw them to live the dream. But Crucible, this is actually the first time I've actually assembled the full combo. I picked up 2 pieces multiple times. It's actually pretty hard to pick up because a lot of people overvalue Crucible of Worlds in Cube, personally. Fast Bond's fantastic, and it really should not be available, so that's oftentimes the hardest pick to nab. But now we have the combo, and now it's about filling out the rest of the deck, whether it be with more ramp or a few more threats. This is just like magical Christmas land so far. And then we get this pack. This pack is actually pretty empty for the most part. And I jokingly say I want to pick up everything that can quote-unquote destroy a land, even if it doesn't destroy a land. So that's why I sit here and read this Primal Command. I say, welp, Primal Command is as close to destroying the land as we're going to get in this pack. So I choose to take it. Mystical Tutor doesn't fetch anything for us, and there's nothing else. Like, we don't know our second color particularly, and we don't want a Garruk, so I just take the Primal Command and say, a 5 mana, put a land on top, good enough. It blows up lands. And I'm like, okay, how many lands can I blow up? I'll pick up Wasteland. I'll do anything I can to keep my opponents from being able to cast spells or have fun, because gosh darn it, I'm the only one who gets to cast spells and have fun, given this is Powered Cube, and it's a terrible thing to say. And here I'm like, oh my god, there's a balance. But there's a Tolarian Academy, which, if there's any card that just is broken in this particular archetype, it's Tolarian Academy. Balance is fantastic, but Tolarian Academy is absurd. It just, even if you're not in blue, we're just playing artifacts. It can tap for 2 or 3 mana, ramps us into our Karn or a Worm Coil Engine. Note that they're both colorless threats, so our Academy is a massive reward. And we're just flying high here. This pack is pretty straightforward pick. There's Phyrexian Metamorph, another artifact. It can copy some of your opponent's best threats, so that's pretty good. Most people tend to not know how good Freyalise is in Cube. She's actually a very good walker in Powered Cube specifically. And this pack I got a lot of slack from, because we do in fact have a permanent that lets us blow up lands in the form of Vindicate, though I'm almost at this point sure that I'm not playing black and white. I just look at what card do I want to play against the least, and I just choose to take the Council's Judgment. This pack is pretty close. You can pick up Oracle of Moldiah, Thirst for Knowledge, or Chrome Mox. Any one of the 3. I also partially consider the Shardless Agent. All 4 of those can see play. I just took the Oracle. It ramps us pretty fast, so it goes well with cards like Winter Orb. It's a solid body for 4. Can come out a little bit early. At this point, I'm not sure if I'm playing black, so I just move the Braids to the board. And I'm like, well, Oracle ramps us pretty fast. It goes well with Fast Bond. At this point, I'm shocked. Like, Primeval Titan tables. I'm like, I'll certainly take Primeval Titan. And then, of all things, Green Soul Ring tables. I say, okay, well, guess no one's in mono green ramp. So we get to play the mono green ramp cards with artifacts. Here, I could pick up a Lightning Graves to be cute, but I'd rather just hate the Ancient Grudge away from people, since we're being the artifact deck, and I'd rather not have multiples of my permanents destroyed, with artifact removal spells. Here, I don't care about any of these particulars, so I just take the Ajani Collar of the Pride, because it's like the card that can kill us fastest with the flying and double strike. Because all we want to do is dirtle. If they're able to get under us and play a whole bunch of low drop creatures, we're probably in trouble, because we need to be able to scale out to ramp out into the late game to cast our Primeval Titan, Wormcoil Engineer, and Karn. At this point, I'm not expecting to pick up anything else in this pack, and rightfully so. Typically, the ends of the pack. We already were super rewarded by getting Jiraga Tree Speaker and Primeval Titan, since both of those are absurd in the green ramp deck. And even though we're playing a whole bunch of artifacts, we still have Grim Monolith, so having a powerful 6-drop slot is great. Here we table Yava My Elder, so it's playable. We don't want to play Nether Void in our deck, since we're going to be oppressed ourselves. And the fact that Freylease tables is fantastic. Freylease is, as I said, people undervalue her. You basically play her on 5 and you use her as a naturalize, and she absorbs some damage. And if she doesn't, like, in Empowered Cube, there's almost surely an artifact or enchantment you want to kill. So that's when she comes down on 5. Is she does that, and then they're forced to invest some amount of resources to kill her, which can oftentimes be good enough if you get her out early. And if you get to untap with her and start plussing her and start making Llanowar Elves, then you're pretty far ahead. I really enjoy her Empowered Cube. Normal Cube, not so much, mind you. Because a lot of the fast artifact mana pieces are just not in there, because fast mana is, well, absurd in Unpowered Cube. And it's still very powerful in normal Cube. So here we're just talking about what sort of cards do I want to pick up. Lotus, Moxen, anything like that are all cards I'd like to pick up. Soul Ring, like we all know. And here, well, there's a lot of very individually powerful cards. Though Mishra's Workshop is the one specifically for us. We've got just enough artifacts to make Mishra's Workshop great. There's Skull Clamp, Gaia's Cradle. We're not a natural order deck per se. And I don't see Path to Exile seeing place in our deck or anything like that. So we're just going to take the artifact ramp spell. It goes great with the number of artifacts we have so far, and we can guide the final pack and pick up more artifacts to abuse it with. So we just go ahead and snap it up, and we're like, sweet, everything is great. We picked it up. And we're like, okay, there's a Signet. We're not necessarily playing blue. Signet goes great with our, with the land we just took, and with all the other artifacts we have. So it's unfortunate we have to pass the best blue creature in Consecrated Sphinx and Fact or Fiction and Elspeth, but we just take the Signet, and life is good. It's also on color, or it's rather green, so it literally becomes a rampant growth. So we get rewarded for our for our top end. So here I'm thinking about, okay, what do I want? Any more big artifact finishers? I'm looking for Mere Battlesphere or Sundering Titan, because those go quite well with Cthulhu the Forge Master. Same with Blightsteel Colossus. And then I'm looking for a couple more cards to fill out the early turns. We can get punished if they get under us, but we have the late game, and if we're able to constrain our opponent's mana, we can have the early game as well, because then they'll just be unable to cast spells. And here we have all the choices. There's Sundering Titan, so I said I want another finisher. I'm hoping the Solemn Simulacrum or the Lodestone Golem table. Either one of those is great, but Sundering Titan is the final finisher I want. Again, it's colorless, it's an artifact, and the most important thing is it just blows up lands. So it does everything that we want. It slices, it dices. And now I start freaking out because we got a 4th pick Mox. So this pack must have been actually absurd. I would not be surprised if there was a Lotus in here, a Soul Ring, Time Walk, Mana Drain, anything like that. But for some reason, we got a 4th pick Mox. So I'm like, Okay, there's a mere Battlesphere in the pack, but we already picked up our second artifact finisher that we needed in Sundering Time, so we don't need Battlesphere. And as you see, I'm sort of freaking out because I have never seen a fourth pick Mox in my life. So it must have been the most absurd pack ever opened. And then we get to look at this pack, which, well, it has another Mox in it, guys, in the form of Mox Diamond. It goes well with our Crucible, and it's another piece of artifact ramp, so it goes well with like Winter Orb and that sort of thing. So we just go ahead and pick it up. Again, a little bit more ramp never hurt. We're hoping the duplicate tables, maybe the Pentad Prism or the Terastodon even. Any one of those. Technically, Terastodon blows up lands, but I didn't want to pick it up. So now we're looking pretty saucy. Our deck is kind of absurd. We have all the fast mana. We've got giant finishers. Life is going really, really, really well. I go ahead and move the Nev's Disc to the board and put the Freyalise in because I'd rather play Freyalise than Nevril's Disc. Again, for the same reason that the disc blows up all of our own permanents, which we want to keep a hold of until we end the game. And here, just look at my reaction at the top right, because I have no idea what's going on. That, my friends, is Mind Twist. Yes, there's an Ugin in the pack, but Mind Twist. If you've never had the pleasure of having cast Mind Twist on an opponent, I will tell you from experience, it feels great. It feels great for you, and your opponent just can't win. Mind Twist is one of those cards that you cast it, your opponent isn't technically dead, except that they are. Like, there's no way they can recover. And with all the fast mana we have, we can Mind Twist their whole hand away pretty fast. Here, there's nothing, like, absurd. Like, we could take the life from the loam and go super cute. But since we have this, like, delicate combo with Zuranorb, I'm not particularly inclined to take it. Ancestral Vision is actually pretty good. There's Recurring Nightmare. There's a Savannah. But nothing here stands out. I'm just going to pick up this Awakening Zone. It's just a random green spell. It's not the most impressive thing. I'd probably cut it pretty early on. But I just take the Awakening Zone here. It can add some blockers. It can help us ramp into our giant colorless finishers. We can cast it early using our Moxen or our Soul Ring Elf. So I just pick it up. There's nothing else. And now I'm like, well, maybe we play black for the braids, but there's actually no need. We get to splash the black for free. And here we're looking and we're like, well, Eureka is a very powerful card. It's not the card for us. So the question is, do we hate draft it? And I'm like, I don't really think I do. Kiora is pretty good. Time Spiral is, better for the Storm deck than anything else. But I just choose to pick up the Everflowing Chalice. More artifact ramp is a pleasure. We do have the Mishra's land, so we get to ramp out pretty fast Everflowing Chalices and just get to our late game pretty fast. It also goes really well with Winter Orb. Here I can pick up a Cradle, which we don't have many creatures actually. We've only got about 8 creatures. We've got an Awakening Zone and Freyalise that can make creatures, but Cradle's actually not going to be particularly good in our deck. We just choose to pick up a Spellskite here. It's important to note that a lot of the really aggressive cards haven't shown up. And here I just pick up Ancient Tomb. People don't seem to know, well, Ancient Tomb taps for 2. And if we are in the colorless deck, where 2 colorless is what we want, then congratulations to us. We can cast a turn 1 Signet, which puts us ahead on curve. So here I'm just sitting here, I'm just thinking to myself how absurd this deck is. We have double Mox Mind Twist. We've got all the good colorless finishers. We've got the Fast Bond, Zuranorb, Crucible combo. The deck just built itself. And then we table Solemn Simulacrum, which is one of those hidden staples in the deck that you just get so much value from Solemn. There's a Sneak Attack still in the pack, so whoever wants to force the Sneak Attack deck can crush us, which is what I note. Here I just hate the show and tell. I don't want them to have show and tell and sneak attack against us. We don't want them having cheap ways to put a threat into play. We're going to be attritioning them and just trying to keep them out. Here we get a duplicant. It's not like the greatest artifact finisher. It's fine. I just don't really care about either. I just take the Deathrite Shaman and then the Hypnotic Spectre. So the deck basically built itself. You had to make sure to balance the number of lands in the deck with the number of Moxen. So that's basically it. The audio here is going to cut off about now. So the last 5 minutes or so will just be me going through the deck building process, going through the last cut or so. Ultimately, what I decided to do is cut the Yavimaya Elder and play Freylease, and I believe I leave Spellskite in the board as well in order to play. Because we have Moxen, we need to count those as lands. So we had like 19 mana sources, so we didn't actually play too many lands. And here, of course, I take a screenshot, because sometimes you just need to take a screenshot. Okay, I'm going to let this cut off. The remainder of the videos in this video set have the audio from the original stream, so it'll be far more entertaining just to listen to my honest reactions. Okay, thank you guys all for watching.